All right. So, shall we move on to our main event then? Ask Christian. Ask me anything.
Well, I prefer to ask you. What? That's not hard to do.
What happened?
When I tapped the chair, I woke up the dog.
Don't wake up the dog.
No,
Don't you
the dog
dare
is
wake up the
sleeping.
dog.
The baboon is sleeping. Okay, so it's no, you know what? No, I do remember asking you about Twitch last time
Okay.
because I made a joke about the title of the of what I wrote down as the content creator topic.
Mm. Yeah, not much has changed with Twitch, really. I mean, I do it on weekends now because I've noticed I get more. I say viewers; they don't actually turn up. They turn up afterwards. That's the thing. They watch my streams afterwards, but they
They
don't.
watch the VODs.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I mean, that's cool. I'm grateful. Don't get me wrong. Thank you. But it's just like I'm so far from affiliate. It's a joke. Like I've got everything else. You know, all the followers you need, all the hours, all that crap. But I can't get that bloody what is it? The average thing of 3 viewers per stream or whatever it is. So yeah, it is what it is.
So close but so far.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. I mean, my approach is different now. I just do all of this because I love it, and if anything, that's actually spurred on my creativity and motivation more. But I'm not going to lie, the numbers do kind of bug me, not just on Twitch but YouTube too. But what can you do? Do you know what I mean? You can't force people to support you. You can't force people to be there. You just have to keep creating and keep trying, and what will be will be.
All right.
Even though
So
you didn't ask me that, but I just spoke anyway.
I mean,
You didn't ask.
I didn't ask. So I understand that you went to Estonia. I mean, you obviously a lot of people know that you went to Estonia. Probably everybody that watches your videos because it's
Because it's
it's
not like I
it's
talk about it or anything, is it? All the
no,
time.
no, it's not
Yeah.
what I meant.
No,
But
I'm just taking the piss. I
why
do.
did you go to Estonia?
Oh, that's easy. So basically, me and my ex-girlfriend, she's a good friend of mine now. You rule. Basically, when we finished university, no, I'm just saying, you know, if she's watching, she rules. She knows she rules. And sometimes things don't work out, but you become friends instead, and sometimes friendships are better. So it's kind of funny how life works sometimes. But yeah, no, we basically finished because we met each other at university, basically. And I'd visited Estonia a few times, obviously, while we were dating. And it got to the point where we finished our degrees in 2017 in the summer. And we were both working at this like hotel that was close by, and I was making like peanuts. It was not enough to, you know, support the place that we were living at. And we had this choice, basically. We could stay in that place for another year, but there was no guarantees of work. And to be honest, I've been searching for marketing jobs around that time for like 2 or 3 months after graduation, and I was getting nothing. And it's quite pricey to travel up to London. That in of itself is costly, and we were at a financial situation where like every pound, you know, counted. So me spending money on interviews that weren't going anywhere is not a sustainable thing, you know, and me working in that job was not sustainable. And we basically sat down and spoke about like our options, and it was either keep doing what we're doing and hope for the best, or go to Estonia. And if I remember correctly, she suggested that, but she was kind of very like adamant, like, hey, this would be a short-term thing. And also, I don't know what you expect. Like, this is not England. Like, it's different. Everything is different. And I was quite naive at the time. I was like, oh, it'll be great. It'll be this, it'll be that. But what she was trying to say to me is that it's a different system. It's a totally different country. People think differently. People work differently. And through time, I would then begin to understand that when we lived there, like what that meant and how that would work. But I still stand by that decision. I think it was a good decision. Basically, the reason that I went to Estonia was for work. That's the short answer. but it was a kind of a situation where, you know, we could have stayed in England, but I just didn't feel at the time like it was the right decision. And I think our initial plan was to kind of go to Estonia for, say, 3 to 6 months or something, and then come back to England. The plan was always to come back. But you know how it is. 6 months turns into a year turns into 2 years. We broke up sometime during that period, but we were obviously really close friends still. And she went back to England in like beginning of 2019 or something. And she was like, well, are you going to come back? Like, when are you going to come back? And I'm just kind of thinking, well, I don't know. Like, I felt like 2020 was the right time to come back. We'll get to that. But like, it's just funny how things work. But I still felt like I had some stuff to do there. Marketing was going really well for me, jobs wise. I was getting a lot of opportunities there.
This is sort of answering the other question. What did you do when you were there?
So I worked in marketing, which is what I studied at university. And I got a lot of opportunities. I worked for different companies. One company in particular gave me a promotion, and I started doing even more complex stuff. So it felt like leaving when all of that was happening was just a stupid move. Like, I would be better staying there. But when those jobs began to get a little sour, and, you know, there was like toxic work environment situations, because the thing is, as you get, even at low levels, you can experience toxic environments. But when you get higher in a company, you really start to see it, right? And in Estonia, it's kind of brutal. They don't have like the same kind of job hiring and firing process that we have here. So people can just get fired like that, just randomly. Like, this guy, Joe, okay, well, he don't work here no more. Like, and he's been here, what, 5 years? But fuck him. It's literally like, no, I'm serious. It's like that. Like, there was one company I worked for. I won't name you, but you know who you are. Who literally had a higher turnover rate than the companies I'd worked in, you know, in customer service.
Was that sort of
We don't say
company?
names. No. We don't say names because I don't like to ruin reputations. And in fairness, this particular company did actually give me a lot as well. So I have like love-hate relationship with them, if you know what I mean. I'm more grateful than I am, like, because I don't really carry resentment or judgment or anything. I just kind of let it go. And I am very grateful. But there were things that I saw that were unacceptable, like very unprofessional. But where was I? I just felt like it was good to stick around while I was there in 2019. It felt like things were going well. And when things started to kind of gradually come to an end, I took on like another job, for a different company. This was at the end of 2019, going into 2020. And it's interesting, like, I could have still been in Estonia today if I hadn't made this decision. But around the time of Christmas of 2019 and New Year's of 2020, I just felt massively homesick, like extreme homesickness.
So
like,
does that answer the final question of this segment? What made you come back?
Yeah, I mean, it was a combination of things, but we'll get to that. Basically, I started feeling this homesickness, and I'd felt it before, but I'd never felt it this strongly. And I think it was because my ex had come over very briefly to visit for New Year's and Christmas, and seeing her and seeing how happy she was doing and everything. Like, I was happy for her as well, don't get me wrong, but I was kind of thinking like, fuck, man. I mean, I'm miserable right now. I'm not happy, you know, and she's doing really well and she's really happy. Like, if I want to be happy, I think I need to go back to the UK. I think it wasn't just about going back to England either. I think it was like I needed a new lease of life. I needed to do something different. And I still stand by this in life. I think that after a certain period of time, and you'll know when that time is because you'll feel it. But I felt like, it seems to me every kind of like 2 to 3 years, I have this moment of like, okay, I need to change things up. I need to do the next thing. That's actually the reason I moved to Manchester as well, is for the same reasoning. But when it got to sort of like January, February, I was like, yeah, I really need to go. I need to leave. I need to go home, spend some time, see my family. I hadn't seen my family in years. And Work-wise, I felt like I'd done everything I needed to do. You know, like if anything, I wasn't getting paid the money that I believed I was worth, and the job market is totally different in terms of like what's available there versus what's available in the UK. So that was one reason. Another thing was I can't hack the winter in Estonia. Not just Estonia, but like European countries like, you know, Estonia, Russia, Finland. They're actually very, especially Finland, are notorious for having very high suicide rates, and I think it's connected to the weather and how like really difficult it can get. And in winter, like I'm not kidding you, man. Like there's so much darkness. Like you probably get 5 hours of good sunlight per day, I would say, and every like the rest of the time it's just fucking dark and cold, and that just really got to me. I don't know. There's this thing called seasonal affective disorder that some people get, and I've always kind of felt that like I'm much happier in the summer and a bit downer in the winter. And we're all kind of affected by that, but some people get it like worse than others, and I really felt it when I was in Estonia. And it's such a shame because Estonia is beautiful in the summer. It's amazing. It's idyllic. Like cannot recommend it enough in the summer. But living there in the winter, it is beautiful, but it's a different story. I kind of felt like I was in hibernation or something. Like I was kind of asleep and I wasn't really living life. I was just kind of existing. And I was like, you know, I'm a young guy. I need to kind of be where shit's happening. You know what I mean? Like go to somewhere where, because that's the thing, like Estonia is small. It's very small. There's not a lot of people. I think there's only about 1 million people in the entire country, or 1.5 or something. So there's not a lot of people, and it can get very lonely. It can get very difficult, and I just felt like it was really time to come back, time to kind of try and make a start again in the UK, which I was kind of nervous about for a long time. I felt like maybe I should stay away from the UK, which is kind of crazy to think about, but I just felt like maybe that was it for me in the UK. And when I came back, I felt totally different. I felt it was that lease of life that I needed. And also, just on a side note, like I know it seems like I'm shitting on Estonia. Estonia is amazing, people. It's a great country to go to. But living there, it's like anywhere else in the world. It has its ups and its downs. And I think a lot of the downs of Estonia lie more in the systematic stuff. So like the government and the way they
It's
do.
not really Estonia's fault. It's just how it is.
Yeah, it's the people running the country really that are to blame. And I mean, you know,
Literally every country ever. But okay.
Exactly. Yeah, there's gonna be things that you like, things that you dislike. There's plenty of great things about Estonia, but when it comes to systems, I mean, I think, well, for example, we discussed the hiring and firing process. I think they need much more stringent rules there about that, because it works in any profession. You can just literally just get fired on the spot, and I just think that that's devastating for people. It's where does that leave you? At least in
You're
the
done.
UK, yeah, you have like a process that you have to go through. You know, you
Yeah,
can't
you
be.
need like a few days notice, otherwise you can like
Well,
get sued for wrongful termination or something.
yeah, and you have to go through a process. If I'm correct, you have to have like a couple of warnings and stuff before you actually even get to. Excuse me, the dying here. The actual final part of it, you have to go through that process first. And the only way you can get around that, if I remember correctly, is by paying compensation to that person. So if you wanted to get rid of someone on the day, you'd have to pay them like compensation right there and then. I think anyway. I'm not 100% on that, but basically, there's laws that protect you, and I felt in Estonia that like the law doesn't really protect you as far as employment law is concerned. It protects the employer, but not the employee. And you know, it's fine if you're young, but like it doesn't really offer much job security moving forward. And that's not to say that the UK is perfect. We have plenty of that shit, but like there is a bit more security there. Do you know what I mean? If you work for a company, chances are you'll be protected to some extent. You have a contract that protects you and your rights.
And for some like sort of well for some careers there's unions.
Yes.
So if you feel like that your rights aren't being met in the workspace, I mean, the employer can get into a lot of trouble.
Exactly. Yeah.
And even, they can't even make money because you can go on a strike.
Exactly. Yeah. There's plenty of things that have been put in place over time, over history, and it protects people. And I feel it's not just Estonia; it's other countries as well. I think a lot of European countries I've heard about have similar issues, and it's just crazy to think about that people have to live with that shit. Because I remember one thing that struck me when I would talk to people about this, and I would say like, "Don't you find that like really amazing or not amazing, but like shocking?" Right? They would always kind of be like, "Oh no, that's just how it is here," and I'm like, "Fuck!" So like, you walk around with the knowledge that at any moment you could just get fired like that. Like, what the fuck are you supposed to do if you have like a wife and kids and stuff? Like, do you know what I mean?
Hold your breath and don't screw up.
Yeah, but that's the thing. A lot of it is numbers based. So something might not even be your fault, or you might just meet like you might have a new manager that just doesn't like you, and they just want to bring in their own people and fire you. So it might not even be personal. It could just be business. And
then you can't do anything about it.
Yeah, and it just
it.
Yeah, like there were people that I knew that got fired, and it completely flipped their world. Do you know what I mean? And they were like, I remember there was this one guy that had like a visa situation. Luckily, it was resolved, and he's still there to this day, and he's doing all right. But I remember that him getting fired actually had a big effect on his visa. So I can't remember exactly how it was tied together, but they basically gave him like an ultimatum situation, and but they didn't really give him like a proper choice, and it just like left him really screwed, basically. So yeah. Anyways.
Do you not think it had something to do with like they give you a visa so long as you're working and making money for the country, and if you're not, then
I can't remember his exact situation, but it was tied together in some way. I can't remember, but I'm just giving that as an example to illustrate that like the power that companies have there sometimes, and how that can screw people over and stuff. And yeah. But yeah, anyway, I hope that answers those questions. I tried to be as detailed as I could,
It does. The problem is I remember asking you these, and I don't know how, but I remember asking you most of these that are on here. So what I'm going to have to do is write some more.
Okay.
Write some more questions, because because there's questions like general questions like how are you, how's work going, but I'm pretty sure we all know all of that.
Well, I'll
so
tell
I
you
need
what.
to try and think of some questions that aren't.
Let's switch it up. What do you want to know? Is there anything that you've wanted to ask me that you just haven't had the
That's the problem. Is I'd have to think about it.
Okay.
Right. I mean, I know what I know about you, and I don't really know what subscribers know about you, so I'll have to try and brainstorm.
Well, no, I meant more just stuff that you personally want to know that you don't know, or something, or maybe you just had a question about some.
How do you get your hair to sit like that without it falling in your face?
Oh, it's not long enough to fall in my face. I mean, it does kind of a little bit, but it's not long enough to do that yet.
And that's my question. That's my question.
How do you get your hair looking so fabulous?